a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
And yes, welcome to the Consumer Quarterback Show. We got a great lineup for you today. Representative Berny Jacques is going to be on the Consumer Quarterback Show with us. Talking about the recent rescues in Israel, rescues from Israel back to Florida. Also, Robert Paredes joining us, Flux Funding, our mortgage expert contributor. We're going to talk about inflation, how that's affecting things in the real estate market, as well as there's a new trial. If you haven't heard about this NAR, this trial that continues with essentially basically the MLS system. They're putting the MLS system itself on trial, which is kind of ridiculous. It's a government overreach, in my opinion. But we're going to dive deep into that as well later on in the program with Robert. Before we do, I want to thank one of our sponsors, West Coast Windows, premier window cleaning here in Tampa Bay. If you're looking to clean your residential, commercial properties, reach out to Brian and his team over at westcoastpremierwindowcleaning.com. Let them know the Real Estate Quarterback sent you. They do a great job with our real estate properties as well. All right, a couple of hot listings here. We've got a property listing at 501 Haven Boulevard, number 803. This is a beautiful condo, some really awesome amenities at this property as well. I love the view from the 8th-story balcony where you're overlooking the Manatee River, also the Marina, Riviera Dunes Marina. It's a beautiful, tranquil community lake as well. 501 Haven Boulevard, unit number 803 in Palmetto, Florida. 2-bedroom, 2-bath. You got a flexible office space as well that could be utilized as a 3rd bedroom if you wanted to add a closet there. 1543 square feet. Great opportunity. Hurricane impact windows and sliders as well at that great listing. And you can see all of our real estate properties at PlatinumCoastalElite.com.
Try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road.
All right, Representative Berny Jacques, welcome back to the Consumer Quarterback Show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, my pleasure. So you're giving us a call in from up in Tallahassee. What's happening up there?
Yes, sir. So I'm up in Tallahassee for committee meetings. We are addressing a lot of different issues for our state. And before session begins, which will be in January, we come up periodically up to Tallahassee to work on committees. And so I was up here on the Criminal Justice Subcommittee. We met Justice Appropriations Committee and the Healthcare Appropriations Committee, which I am now the vice chair of. And so just getting ready to tee things up. We're hearing from department heads and getting bills ready to deliver on behalf of the people of the state of Florida.
I love it, and I love one of your bills that you got done last year was the bill about murder. You know, someone that commits murder, their life should be taken. So you were able to act and change that law. Absolutely,
that was the first bill that we passed on the House floor, and it was signed into law even before session ending by Governor DeSantis. And what it simply did is it held people accountable, right? We had a situation where you had stone-cold killers, just the most heinous of heinous individuals who were escaping true justice because a flaw in our law that was imposed upon us by a very liberal Florida Supreme Court. It's no longer liberal because Governor DeSantis appointed some strong conservatives there, but several years back, this liberal court said that you needed all 12 jurors to recommend the death penalty. Later on, the courts reversed it, but it was in our statute. It was in our books because we had changed our laws because of it. And all the while, you had some terrible killers getting away because you had 1 or 2 holdout jurors who wouldn't do the right thing when everybody knew what the right thing would be. The most high-profile case of that is that terrible individual down there in South Florida, in Parkland, who committed mass murder on children. He was able to escape the death penalty based on this flaw in our law. And even in Pinellas County, right there in the Tampa Bay area, we had a cop killer up in Tarpon Springs, killed Officer Charlie Condack, and you had 2 jurors when the guy's guilt was not even in doubt, right? It was just the penalty phase. We knew this person did it, and you still had 2 people who wouldn't do what was right, and now we have a convicted cop killer who will be living on our dime for the rest of his life instead of getting the death penalty that he deserved. Well, no more. Based on my bill, just 8 out of those 12 jurors can now recommend the death penalty, and we're going to have less people escape true justice.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. Representative Berny Jacques here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Are you allowed to retroactively go back and now or is that a done deal for those cases?
Unfortunately, we can't.
No.
Procedurally, you cannot make it retroactive. But even, and that's a great question, because the folks that were very involved in this bill from a citizen perspective were those family members, those parents who lost their children in Parkland.
Yeah.
And they were so involved, even knowing it wouldn't change the outcome of their particular case, but they wanted to make sure this kind of pain and hurt never happens to any other family here in the state of Florida. And they were so involved, and they're so I'm happy to see that it passed, and it was a pleasure to get to work with them on this.
Yeah, that's a great job on that, man. So Governor DeSantis leading the way again, brought in just a few days ago. We saw that he brought in some folks that were these folks stranded in Israel. Is that
correct?
What ended up happening?
Correct.
Yeah.
So when the war broke out in Israel following the vicious terrorist attacks, obviously all heck broke loose, and commercial flights were suspended in Israel. All the while, you had a lot of Americans and Floridians who were still in Israel, and they needed to get out. And Florida obviously has a large Jewish American community. So when this occurred, a lot of us were thinking about, hey, we might have constituents or family members of constituents who are stuck in Israel, and we should do everything that we can to get them out of that active war zone. And so Governor DeSantis took decisive actions to do just that. He signed an executive order that directed the Division of Emergency Management to charter planes to get out to Israel, working with the Israeli officials, and to get Americans and Floridians out of there. And you compare that to the federal government, which their response was just pretty terrible. Number one, a citizen has to pay. You have to pay. You're already a taxpayer, right? And you're stuck in a war zone, and you have to pay for their services. And then they didn't even bring you all the way back to the U.S. So their planes brought you to Europe, and then you got to hitch a ride back on your own dime. But Florida saw a different way. We went directly into Israel and got folks directly out back to Florida. The first flight arrived Sunday night. About 300 individuals were on that plane, and we've had some other ones coming back as well that the governor's been welcoming back. And we're sending cargo shipment of aid to Israel during this trying time. And so it goes to show you, when you have strong leadership, you can accomplish great things. And the money the governor is using is money that I was involved with in the legislature that we appropriated to leave there for emergency purposes. And what greater emergency is there when you have your own citizens stuck in an active war zone?
Wow. Well, that's peace of mind there, knowing that if you are in that position, you're overseas, a war breaks out, and as a Floridian, you can rely on Governor DeSantis and the state legislature and great representatives like Berny Jacques to, step it up, because the federal government has been dropping the ball in many cases, Berny.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in many cases, the biggest case right now is the $6 billion they gave to the largest sponsor of terrorism, Iran. And of course, those funds, or at least the credit on those funds, was used to fund Hamas that led to this terrible terrorist attack. And now we have this war. They never cease to amaze us, that the number of things that they dropped the ball on. This was a big one. We know the botched Afghanistan withdrawal was another one. Mm-hmm. We know the way they're handling our southern border that's having disastrous impacts across our country that we're fighting back against, actually, in Florida. So one of the bills that I did and that I passed as well was a crackdown on illegal immigration here in the state of Florida. But certainly we keep having to pick up the pieces of this terrible federal regime, right, out of Washington, because we keep having to pass laws to insulate our people, to protect our people, and to do things that the federal government should be doing. Imagine a state having to go into a foreign country, a war zone, to take their citizens out because the federal government is totally inept. So we're going to continue to lead the way here in the state of Florida, and I'm proud of our governor, and I look forward to working with him some more during these trying times.
Yeah, and if you just joined us, we're talking with Representative Berny Jacques here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. A great Floridian, a great example also of someone who immigrated to the country. And Bernie, give us a little background, because I just love your story. I mean, you came and created a life for yourself. You got elected, and now you're doing great things in the state legislature.
Absolutely. You know, my story is a testament of the American dream. My family and I, we came over to the U.S. The right way. You know, we came legally and went through the proper channels and really worked hard, right? My parents taught my brothers and I that in this country, you work hard, you play by the rules, and you have faith in God, all things are possible. And I took that to heart and certainly saw the example from my parents. I had literally, Brandon, I had a front row seat to the American dream and saw, you know, my parents, you know, they immediately got to work, right? They expected nothing for free, and worked hard. They became homeowners within 6 years of coming into the country. My dad would go to school at night while he worked, you know, multiple jobs during the day. He eventually got his bachelor's degree. Obviously, one of their sons, you know, got elected to the Florida legislature. It truly is a testament that all things are possible in this country when you do it the right way. And it's one of the reasons why I'm very active, you know, when it comes to the issue of immigration, because there's a right way and there's a wrong way.
Yeah.
And when you do it the wrong way, you diminish everybody who was waiting in line, going through the struggle, who want to be Americans, who want to contribute. You know, it does a disservice to those people who are patiently waiting,
right.
And it does a disservice to the American citizens, to Floridians, on a lot of different fronts. One of them is public safety. You know, when you have people just coming across your southern border, you have no idea who they are. Some of them go on to commit crimes. Some of them had committed crimes in their home countries, but we had no way of knowing because we're not vetting these people. If we're catching them, we're releasing them, giving them a court date, knowing darn well they're not going to return, right? And
exactly.
So this causes a big public safety crisis that we had to handle here in the state of Florida. So I was proud to partner with Representative Michael over up in the Northeast Florida area. She actually lost her son, tragically, to an illegal alien who had no business being in our country, who committed a traffic violation, and her son was just out middle of the day going to cash his check. And he's no longer with us because the federal government failed us and allowed an illegal to be operating within our state, only to take the life of one of our own. So we had to stop this. So we upped the penalties for human smuggling across our state lines when you have illegal aliens with you. We cracked down on employers who are hiring illegal aliens by making mandatory E-Verify the law of the land for private sector employers. And we are no longer recognizing these out-of-state driver's licenses that are issued to illegal aliens. We know some of these blue states are issuing driver's licenses to people they know they're not even supposed to be in this country. And so when they come to our state, if they're driving on one of those licenses, it would be just as if they're driving without a license, and they will be held accountable via the law. And so those are some of the measures that we took, and many more, to send a strong message that, you know, although we have open Biden borders, Florida should not be one of your destination points because we will crack down.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank God we're leading the way in the state of Florida. Governor DeSantis and Representative Berny Jacques doing a great job on that. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to focus on Florida, but I also want to hit on, just from a national perspective, Tucker Carlson's recent comments about the U.S. military, the state of disarray in the United States military, and potential for being pulled into a larger regional war in the Middle East. I wanted to get your take on that, Bernie. Taking a quick break, coming back more here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
Hey, I'm Ken Shamrock, and you're here with Consumer Quarterback Show. And I say, Brandon Rhymes, knock out your competition.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 727-263-3707. Online at consumerqb.com.
Dennis Prager here for Brandon and Lindsay Rhymes, owners of the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams. Buying, selling, investing in real estate, their nationwide Keller Williams network makes them the best team to work with. Sellers, have your property featured live on air, creating multiple offers. Buyers, leverage a unique system that gets your offer accepted, never overlooked. Call or text 813-750-0550, 813-750-0550, or consumerqb.com.
I want to give a special thanks to Satellite Phone Store. They just hooked me up with this beautiful satellite phone, and it's a gorgeous phone. It's a great device. It's a safety device as well. Think about it. If you're out on the boat 40, 50 miles out, maybe you're going hunting or you're going hiking in the woods somewhere, you run out of cell phone service, or who knows, maybe a possible terrorist attack. It's not like our politicians aren't entrenched in all this stuff going on overseas, all over the place, all over the world. Could be a terrorist attack. They could attack the power grid. They could attack the cell phones. Who knows what they're going to attack next. Sat123.com/REQB. Sat for satellite. Sat123.com/REQB, like real estate quarterback.
You're listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-917-1894.
All right, back here in studio, Brandon Rhymes, Consumer Quarterback Show, powered by the Platinum MVP team. Got Representative Berny Jacques on the phone line here. We're going to talk with him more in just a moment. Before we do, just a hot listing here from the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. We've got a property at 7300 Southwind Drive in Hudson. This is Pasco County, single-family home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 26 square feet. This home offers a perfect blend of comfort and luxury in a tranquil setting. It's nestled on a double lot. The property boasts an expansive circular driveway, concrete pad. You also have an 18 by 30 foot pool. Beautiful home here in the Sea Pines community of Tampa Bay, which has Gulf access via a community boat association ramp. And you can see all of our listings at platinumcoastalelite.com.
Sun is shining, the weather is sweet.
All right, so I wanted to get some more information on Florida, what's happening in Florida also, but I wanted to play this clip here. I found this interesting from Tucker's new show on X, and then have your response here, Bernie.
The U.S. military is weaker than it's been in at least 50 years since the end of Vietnam. Exhausted by 2 pointless conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan, internally divided by identity politics, mismanaged by buffoonish hacks at the Pentagon, our services are in obvious disarray. Check the enlistment numbers. Nobody wants to join. But it's worse than that. The government that funds our army is bankrupt. The man who leads it is senile. Now is not the time for a world war. We would lose.
For sake of time, that clip goes on for a little bit, but you get the point there, Bernie. It really is, it's kind of scary at some point as a citizen. You start thinking about what we got going on in Ukraine, and then we've got Israel now. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's very concerning due to mismanagement of our armed forces. We are not in a great position. I still will bet on America, every day of the week. But certainly, this is not these are not our best days. Let's put it that way. And certainly, when we're focused on the wrong things like pronouns and radical gender ideology in our armed forces, as opposed to, equipping our troops to be the most lethal force that can deter aggression. Peace through threat, the old Reagan doctrine.
Yes.
Of making sure that countries know not to do certain things because they know we will be ready to take care of business. But when you're weak, countries are going to be aggressive. Things are going to happen, and then you're going to be in a position to be pulled into World War III that nobody wants, nobody should want. And it's not a good place for our country to be in. So certainly we need leadership. We need leadership in Washington that will right the ship, because it is putting us in harm's way if something were to go down.
Yeah, it really is. And to me, it's almost like a setup, kind of like the pandemic was, to have the vote from home stuff happening. It's almost like that setting up again for another way for the left to stay in power. I hope and pray not, but it just seems like there's some kind of a setup there. So, Bernie, tell me a little bit more about what's happening in Florida. What else do we need to know? How can we support you? How can we support Governor DeSantis?
Absolutely. I mean, folks can follow my work. If they go to my website, bernyforflorida.com. That's Berny with a Y, F-O-R, the word Florida.com. You can sign up for my e-newsletter, and there you can get updates on what we're doing up here in Tallahassee. And we're going to, continue to keep Florida free. That's my number one mission when I'm up here in Tallahassee, is to make sure that Florida remains a land of freedom and opportunity. I'm going to be working on some legislation that protects the unborn, that secures our elections, and maintains our climate of law and order here in the Sunshine State. Those are the type of things you can expect from me as this new legislative session comes up. And certainly you can follow our work, again, by going to our website, bernyforflorida.com.
bernyforflorida.com. And constitutional carry was another big deal that just went into effect. The ability to carry an firearm concealed, and to be able to protect yourself, protect your family. I think more and more Floridians need to, get better training and be trained on it. But what a great, idea in the state of Florida.
Absolutely. No longer will you need a government permission slip to practice and to exercise a constitutional right, a fundamental constitutional right embedded in our Second Amendment. And so I do encourage Floridians to be armed and be prepared during these trying days when you hear things like Global Day of Jihad or wide open southern borders where you don't even know who these people are who are around you. And Florida, we do pretty good with keeping down crime. We're at a 50-year low in crime. But you can never be too prepared, right? And you got to make sure that you can defend yourself if you are a victim of a crime, and make sure you don't become a victim of a crime. So be trained, be prepared, and know that the state of Florida backs you up when it comes to your constitutional right to carry, and no longer will you need that government permission slip to exercise a constitutional right.
Talk to me about the state of insurance, because the real estate business is a little bit difficult right now. It's tougher, and insurance being one of the major concerns.
It is, and it's one of the things that we discuss on a weekly basis. We did a special session back in December, so we're coming up on a year where we address a lot of the fraudulent claims, a lot of the excessive litigation that drove up rates and made insurers no longer write policies in Florida. They were leaving Florida altogether, and that caused a terrible situation for Floridians, where a lot of folks had to be stuck on Citizens. The insurer of last resort was becoming the only available insurer for a lot of people. And so we have to take some measures to address that, to bring back a competitive market. Again, one of those things that we did was crack down on excessive litigation. We made sure to add some accountability measures as well against insurers to make them pay claims quicker. And so we think some of these things will bring back a healthy market, but it is going to take some time. The projections that I was hearing and we've been hearing was 15, 18 months is when you're going to start seeing companies starting to come back to Florida and writing policies and creating a competitive marketplace. So where Floridians can truly shop around. Right now, it's not really the case, right? You're stuck on Citizens, or Citizens gives you a notice that they're not going to renew you, and they said there's this other company that's new. But we want to create a situation where companies are fighting for your business and offering lower rates to make sure that prices are coming down for consumers. And so there's definitely something that we are monitoring, even though there is that projection of the 15, 18 months from last December. A lot of us are growing impatient, because that is, we hear that from our constituents on a daily basis. We're all feeling it, and this will be an issue that we will not take our eye off of, because it's so meaningful to quality of life.
Florida. We're out of time, Bernie. bernyforflorida.com.
That's right. bernyforflorida.com. Berny with a Y.
Berny with a Y, not an IE like the socialist. There you go. All right. Thanks for calling. Appreciate your time.
You got it. Take care.
All right. Coming back, Robert Paredes, Flux Funding. We're going to talk real estate, this NAR lawsuit, and more. ConsumerQB.com.
Thanks for listening to My Daddy's Show. Please make sure to send him all of your real estate deals and subscribe to the Consumer Quarterback Show podcast.